So as we enter a time of meditation this morning, I invite you, as you feel comfortable, close your eyes or just keep a soft gaze. Feet firmly planted on the floor as you are comfortable, hands open and relaxed in a receiving posture. Take a few deep, calming breaths. Relax and center. Just breathing in and out. And as you continue to breathe, let your awareness move to your immediate environment. The smells, what you hear, the soft music, the sound of my voice. The energy, the love, and the presence of this community. Say to yourself, for this, I am grateful. Just continuing to breathe, relax. Bring to mind those people in your life to whom you are close. Your friends, family of choice, spouses, partners. And as you picture these people in your mind, say to yourself, for these, I am so grateful. Consider yourself. You are a unique individual, an expression of God, blessed with imagination, communication, the ability to learn from the past, center in the present, think of the future. You indeed have the power within to overcome any outer challenging circumstance. Think on this and say to yourself, for this, I am grateful. And finally, as we go into the silence, rest in the realization that life is indeed a precious gift, that you have been born into a period of immense prosperity. You have the gift of health, access to spiritual teachings, community, and so much more. As we go into the silence, say to yourself, for this, I am grateful. And as we slowly now bring our awareness back to this room, know this truth. are indeed beautiful, beloved, and blessed. And for this and so much more, we are grateful. And so it is. Amen. That is beautiful. Thank you. Good morning.
Good morning.
Well, I'm back. As always, I thank you for the opportunity to share with this community. And of course, this is a very special time in the life of this community, so I want to thank you especially for the opportunity to candidate for the position of spiritual leader. It is indeed an honor, and for that I give much gratitude and thanks. So I also want to start the talk this morning with a brief expression of gratitude. You may not know this, but a week from today, I will have completed Unity's Spiritual Education and Enrichment Program.
Wow.
It's been a long road. You know, when I first came to Unity in 2015, I thought with, the credentials that I have and the experience and so forth, I would go to Unity and, take, a few courses, and become part of community and would just move right along. 23 courses later, here I am. And it's been a great journey. I've learned a lot. Unity education is very different than what you may experience in mainline seminaries. It's very valuable, and it focuses very much on going within and discovering purpose and calling and being part of the one of which we are all part and expressions of. Now, I bring this subject up because one of my final two classes this term is called Discerning Your Purpose. And the primary text is Callings, Finding and Following an Authentic Life by Greg Lavoie. So you can imagine with a course with that kind of title and a book with that particular title and subject matter, there's a whole lot of discernment going on about calling and life purpose. Now, some of you may be sitting out there and you look at me and you think, you'd think by his age he'd have a handle on his life purpose. And to a point, I do. And by the way, when it comes to my age, it's called age amazing. We are all age amazing here. It's just that some of us have had more experience at age amazing. But I digress. Back to life purpose, back to calling. In his book, The Eye of the Storm, another book and another class, Dr. Gary Simmons states his belief that we all have the same overall life purpose. He calls it to be the Christ of God, to be the Christ of our world. Metaphysics teaches that divine will is actually each person ultimately reveals and expresses the Christ, the composite idea, the composite divine idea. Wow. Be the composite divine idea. Be the Christ of God. Be the Christ of your world. No pressure there. Trust me. Saying that your purpose is to be the Christ of God or the Christ of your world or the composite divine idea can feel a bit scary. Especially if you come from a much more conservative faith tradition like I did as a child. Trust me, this is not something you share at Thanksgiving dinner with my family. Danny, what have you been doing this year? Oh, I'm just busy being the Christ of my world. And pass the dressing. So, it's challenging, it's scary. And you know, when I first started embracing this truth, that I am indeed one expression of God, it was very frightening. And not only that, when I started expressing it by actually, saying it, verbalizing it, at first it was pretty terrifying. I mean, was I going to go to hell for blasphemy? Wait a minute, I don't believe in hell anymore. Oh, holy crow, am I going to hell for not believing in him? You get it, right? It can be confusing. And you may have a very different way of stating this purpose. You might say you believe our life purpose is to be the best expression of divine mind that we can be. Or our life purpose is to express from our best and highest selves. It's all pretty much the same thing. But no matter how you say it, we are all on the same journey. That is, we are in the process of awakening to God's idea of us, expressing as us. We just have different ways of waking up, so to speak. And we have different timelines for those awakenings. And that is plural on purpose because I believe we have multiple awakenings throughout our lives. Discovering our life purpose, living out our life purpose and call. It sounds so holy. And it sounds so deep. And it is. And it is also a huge pain in the behind sometimes. I mean, think about this. How many people here have ever walked into a room and forgotten why you're there? Isn't that annoying? I mean, you go into the room, you have an idea why you knew why you thought you knew, but we forgot. Well, that's how discovering our callings and living into our life purpose can feel sometimes. There we are, just moving and grooving along in life, thinking we know what we're doing, we know where we're headed, we know why, and then something happens. A triggering event, could be anything. And we stop, and the age-old question comes up, why am I here? Really, why am I here? It's a question of life purpose. It's a question about calling. And it's an important question because having a life purpose, being centered in a calling, helps us focus our energy. It helps us focus our resources. It kind of gives our lives meaning. And without that focus, life can feel rather disjointed. It can feel like we're just spinning our wheels, getting nowhere. Myrtle Fillmore puts it this way. All of us, sooner or later, come to the place in our lives where we are no longer satisfied to go on living the old life. without the knowledge of our oneness with God, the source of our being. Sometimes when we reach this point in our soul's progress, we may become restless and dissatisfied. We may go through experiences which we do not understand. We may even be tempted to think our good has gone from us. But just as surely as there is God, the one presence and one power, we shall find all is well. And that we are going from one room, as it were, into a larger and lighter room. Now, if you agree with me, we all share the same big picture purpose: to live from our best and highest selves, to be the Christ of our world, however you say that. At least we've got a goal in mind, right? The big picture. We sort of know where we're headed. Still, saying that we are the Christ of our world or the Christ of God sounds a bit like what a dear friend of mine calls spiritually woogie. Bet you didn't know woogie's a spiritual term. I didn't either. Until my friend and colleague Emma Chatton enlightened me a few years ago. And by spiritually woogie, all I mean is saying like I am the Christ of my world or I am the Christ of God doesn't sound very practical, does it? And in Unity, we teach a practical spirituality. So where do we even begin? Well, first, take heart. There is actually a plan for each of us to be the Christ of our world. And it's not a plan from an outer God out there somewhere, or what my friend calls the facts from God, that we have to follow. Now, metaphysics calls this a divine plan. And divine plans are determined by the consciousness of each individual. So the good news here is each of us has the power within us and the responsibility within us to design our own divine plan. Just like our master teacher Jesus and people like Buddha and other spiritual masters had their divine plan, we too have ours. Very simply put, one big picture purpose, many paths to live it. This means we can be the Christ of our world as a volunteer at a food pantry, a homeless wanderer, a custodian, a parent, grandparent, poet, you name it. Even more good news, you don't have to manifest like Jesus or Mother Teresa, the Buddha, or any other famous person. It's not a competition, okay? In fact, some days our callings may be simply just to be still. Be still and know that God is. And that because God is, we are. This is the call to pay attention, to be present and open to Spirit's leading as we discover those calls and passions which enable us to manifest the Christ in our world. Now, with all that in mind, what are some ideas we can use to discover those calls and those passions? To move to those larger and lighter rooms that Myrtle is talking about. Well, I'm a big fan of always starting with gratitude. You start with gratitude that we are one with the divine, with God, with Source, and with all creation. Express gratitude that we already have everything we need to face any challenges we will most certainly face on our journeys. Express gratitude that the answers are already there, ready for us to discover. Next, remember, this process, as beautiful and holy and important as it is, will take time. In fact, Greg Lavoie in his book says that patience is the missing link in the discernment process, in the search for clarity, and in the waiting for events to unfurl. Lavoie also says we do much damage to ourselves by not being patient with our own evolution, which by design and necessity luxuriates in the abundance of time and plot twists. We're talking about patience. Now, when I first read this in his book, I thought, oh, great. Patience. My favorite virtue. Not so much. You know, there was a daily word devotional, I believe it was either September and October. I read that stated patience is not only a virtue, it is a practice. Now, I can get behind that. Patience as a practice. Because I don't know about you, that whole phrase, patience is a virtue, tends to get on my nerves. Especially when I'm not feeling so virtuous. But I can get behind patience as a practice because for me, that means some days we get it right, some days we don't, and that's okay. The point is, we just keep practicing. So we begin our journey of discovery with gratitude. We are centered in our divine oneness, and we're at least willing to try to practice a little patience along the way. Virtuous or not. What now? Let's keep our eyes open for what Lavoie calls the hidden teachers along the way. That means, as wonderful as human teachers, books, and classes are, and as important as practices like prayer and meditation and journaling are, teachers come in unlimited forms and experiences. So be aware, pay attention, be present to opportunities for ways to customize and revise your divine plan all along the way. Because remember, it's your plan. Looking for these hidden teachers means opening ourselves to a variety of experiences, taking it all in and saying, okay, what the heck was that all about? And in the asking, we just might find those next steps we need on our path. When we're thinking about our calls, our purpose, and our passion, it's important to consider what we'd love to do. What is it that you do that you can't imagine not doing, whether or not you get a paycheck for it? In fact, Lavoie suggests that trying to make our passions and our calls into a paycheck can often take the joy out of them. Now, this doesn't mean you can't make a living and keep a roof over your head by following a call or a passion in your life. The point is, don't try to force it, because we can take the joy out of it. So let's review. We're grateful. We're centered in our oneness with the divine and all creation. We're patient with the process most of the time. We're practicing. We're practicing a balance of inner work. And we are also engaging with the world, looking for those hidden teachers and clues about purpose and call. All along the way, we're gathering some good ideas for our divine plan. We're customizing our divine plan along the way. We're customizing a plan that will enable us to manifest the Christ in our world. And what is it we say? With ideas, we can create our world. Where attention goes, energy flows. We've got all this going on for us. We've done all this work. Now what? Well, the day will always come when, ready or not, it's time to make an informed leap. Now please note, I said an informed leap. And that's an important point too. See, you don't have to quit your day job to enjoy your passions and your callings. We can ease into it while keeping a roof over our heads. Very important point there. Very important. We're further testing the expression of our calls and our purpose. And as we do that over time, one day we can make the full transition. Or perhaps we discover along the way, because we've practiced patience, that, I can actually follow my call, I can follow my passion, and keep my day job, which will probably make your spouses and family very happy. Again, we look for the hidden teachers. Those events, those people, and those synchronicities and dreams which will inform us when it is time to make that decision. Or not. This is the point, folks, where we begin living the truth we know based on what we've learned. Sounds beautiful, right? Mm-hmm. But what if it doesn't work out, Danny? What if I do all this work and it doesn't work out the way I planned? It happens sometimes. I encourage you, if that happens, to remember that nothing in the universe is ever wasted. Look for the lesson. Accept the reality of what happened, because stuff happens. And deny its power over you. Deny its permanence. And then you keep moving. Or, as Myrtle might say, look for the next larger and lighter room. So as each of us works and reworks our divine plans on the journey to living from our best and highest selves, I leave you with these words. Remember that no matter what outer circumstances present in your life, remember there is only one power and presence, God the Good. Remember that you and I and all creation are part of and expressions of that presence. Remember, we create our reality through our thoughts, our beliefs, our feelings, and our faith. Remember to stay connected to that one power through practices like prayer and meditation. And finally, remember to live the truth you know, confident that through the Christ light within us, expressing as us, we can indeed do all that ours is ours to do. And so it is.